All right, so get this. We're diving deep into DARPA today.
Ooh, exciting.
You know, the agency behind all those crazy tech projects that sound like they came straight out of science fiction.
Yeah, the stuff that almost seems too wild to be real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But here's the twist. We're not just going to rehash the whole DARPA invented the internet thing that everyone already knows.
Right, going deeper.
Yeah, our listener sent us this documentary about DARPA,
Okay.
but along with a really interesting question.
I'm intrigued.
What, if any, is the connection between DARPA and something called the Banzi Foundation?
Banzi Foundation.
Yeah, I had to read that twice myself. The Banzi what?
It definitely grabs your attention.
Right. Like, what is this all about?
It's definitely a question that makes you curious.
For sure. So maybe you can help me out here.
I'll do my best.
What is this Banzi Foundation, and why would it be connected to DARPA?
Well, to be honest, the documentary you sent mostly focuses on the origin story of DARPA.
Okay, the official story.
Right, like how they were created in response to the Soviet Union launching Sputnik in 1957.
Ah, yeah. Prevent technological surprise.
Exactly. That whole narrative, it doesn't really dig deeper into anything that might have been in play before that.
Interesting. So you're saying it's possible this Banzi Foundation could be like the missing piece of the puzzle, like maybe DARPA's roots go further back than what we're told.
It's certainly possible.
I'm already picturing a secret group of scientists working in some underground lab.
It's a very cool image, I have to admit.
Yeah.
But we do have to be careful about jumping to conclusions.
Oh, for sure.
Just because the documentary doesn't mention the Banzi Foundation doesn't automatically mean there's some big cover-up or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Fair point. So let's stick to what we do know about DARPA from this documentary. They did a pretty good job at preventing more Sputniks, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. The documentary highlights a ton of DARPA's incredible projects.
Yeah. Like, what are some of the standouts?
Well, there's the WASP, for example.
The wasps.
Yeah, it's this tiny little drone that any soldier can launch.
Oh, wow.
And it sends back live video, so it basically gives every infantry unit its own personal eye in the sky.
That's wild. A game changer on the battlefield, for sure.
Absolutely. Then there's the exoskeleton project.
Oh, yeah. That one blew my mind.
I know, right? Imagine soldiers wearing these robotic suits that make them super strong and give them tons of endurance.
Sounds like something straight out of a superhero movie.
Totally. And the potential uses for that kind of tech are huge.
Oh, yeah. For the military, for sure. But I can see it being useful in so many other areas, too.
Exactly. Like, imagine firefighters being able to easily lift heavy debris during rescues.
Or construction workers carrying huge loads without getting hurt.
Right. It's a peek into a future where technology helps us overcome all sorts of human limitations.
It's incredible. But it's not all about super soldiers and crazy gadgets, right? DARPA also works on more practical problems.
Oh, definitely.
The documentary talked about something called the glove that's designed to prevent heat stroke in soldiers.
Oh, yes, the glove. That's a great example of how DARPA uses cutting-edge research to solve real-world problems.
Yeah.
By keeping soldiers cool in extreme heat, it could save lives not just on the battlefield, but in other dangerous jobs, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so DARPA's doing some seriously impressive stuff. We've established that.
Oh, sure.
But the question remains, how does this Banzi Foundation, if it even exists, fit into all of this?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Maybe this documentary only gives us a surface-level look at DARPA's public projects.
It's possible.
Like maybe this Banzi Foundation represents a hidden side to DARPA's history.
It's a very interesting thought.
You're saying there could be a whole other side of DARPA that we don't see. Something operating in the shadows, maybe even predating the whole Sputnik story.
It's not impossible.
Now, this is where things start to get really interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely something worth thinking about. I mean, intelligence agencies and stuff like that, they often have layers and layers of secrecy.
Right. Like some projects stay classified for decades.
Exactly. So it wouldn't be a shock if there were things going on that we don't know about.
Okay, so let's say just for fun that this Banzi Foundation did exist and that it was somehow connected to DARPA.
Right.
What could that relationship look like?
Well, we have to think about the historical context.
Right, the Cold War.
Exactly. The U.S. and the Soviet Union were locked in this huge technological race.
Yeah, trying to one-up each other constantly.
Right. So both sides were probably doing all kinds of research through all kinds of channels, some more out in the open than others.
So are you suggesting that this Banzi Foundation could have been some kind of secret research group? Like working behind the scenes, maybe even laying the foundation for what DARPA would become?
It's a possibility. I mean, think about it. DARPA, as we know, it was officially created in 1958.
Okay.
But it's totally plausible that some research, even involving the people who would end up running DARPA, was already happening before Sputnik.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm.
It's not like the government just suddenly decided to invent futuristic technology out of nowhere.
Yeah. Right. There had to be some kind of groundwork, some place where those ideas were developing.
Exactly. And that's where this Banzi Foundation could fit in. Maybe it was like an incubator for those early research projects.
It's possible. A place where really smart people could explore crazy ideas without having to deal with bureaucracy or public scrutiny.
Like a scientific think tank operating outside the normal channels, a place where the seeds of DARPA were sown.
Exactly.
But if that's the case, why all the secrecy? Why wouldn't there be any mention of this Banzi Foundation in official records?
That's the real mystery, isn't it? There are a few possibilities.
Okay, Leah Mommy.
Well, maybe the research they were doing was considered way too sensitive to let the public know about.
Okay, I can see that.
Like maybe it involved technologies that were seen as ethically questionable or something.
Yeah, or maybe, and this is just a thought, there were connections to foreign governments or private companies that they had to keep hush-hush.
Oh, yeah. We are talking Cold War espionage here. I mean,
Yeah.
anything is possible.
It's wild. So we've got all these intriguing possibilities, but we can't actually confirm or deny any of this based on what we have right.
Not with the information we have from the documentary, no.
But even just thinking about these scenarios, it shows us that history isn't always as simple as it seems.
Absolutely. It's like that saying, history is written by the victors.
Exactly. There's always another side to the story, a perspective that's been lost or maybe even intentionally hidden.
Right. And by digging deeper, by asking questions and challenging what we think we know, we can start to get a more complete understanding of what really happened.
So where do we go from here? How do we move past just speculating and actually uncover the truth about this Banzi Foundation? Assuming it exists, of course.
Well, first we need to go beyond the documentary.
Okay.
We need to look at historical archives, declassified documents, maybe even track down people who might have been connected to this organization.
That sounds like a lot of work,
It would be.
but I have a feeling our listeners are up for the challenge.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
After all, who doesn't love a good mystery?
Especially one that could totally change how we understand DARPA's origins.
This is a big one for sure.
Okay, so let's give our listeners some tools for this investigation.
Right.
What are some specific things they can do? Where would you start if you were trying to unravel this mystery?
Well, one good place to start would be researching the scientific and technological landscape of the 1940s and 1950s.
Okay, so like right before DARPA was officially formed.
Yeah, exactly. We're looking for people or organizations that were doing cutting-edge research, particularly in areas that would become important to DARPA later on.
Makes sense. So like computing, aerospace materials, science, that kind of stuff.
Right, because if the Banzi Foundation was laying the groundwork for DARPA, their research would have to line up with those areas.
So it's all about connecting the dots, right? Finding those hidden links between people, institutions, and research projects.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of the internet.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's an amazing resource for this kind of stuff.
There are tons of archives, databases, and forums dedicated to historical research.
You'd be surprised what you can find just by doing some digging online.
Absolutely.
And who knows, maybe somewhere out there in the vastness of the internet, there's a secret stash of documents just waiting to be discovered.
A digital Rosetta Stone for the Banzi Foundation.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
Yeah.
we're living in this age of incredible transparency where it's getting harder and harder to keep secrets.
True.
So maybe the truth about the Banzi Foundation is out there just waiting for someone to find it.
It could be. And maybe with a little luck and a lot of hard work, our listener will be the one to uncover it.
Okay, so we're back and ready to help you, dear listener, become a Banzi Foundation detective.
Exactly. We spent the last 2 parts speculating and theorizing.
But now it's time to give you some actual tools and strategies you can use for your own investigation.
Consider this your detective starter kit.
Perfect. So where should our listener begin? What are some of the best resources out there?
Let's start with online archives. The National Archives and Records Administration is a goldmine.
Ooh, I love the National Archives.
Right. They have tons of declassified documents. You can search by keyword date range, even names of specific people or organizations.
It's like searching for buried treasure.
It is. You never know what amazing piece of info you might stumble across.
And don't forget about university libraries.
Oh, that's another good one.
A lot of them have huge digital collections focusing on science and technology history.
You might find old research papers, conference proceedings, even personal letters and stuff that could shed light on this whole Banzi Foundation thing.
It's all about connecting the dots, right? One name leads to another, one document hints at a connection, and then boom, the picture starts to become clearer.
Exactly. But what happens if our listener hits a dead end? What if the digital trail goes cold?
That's a good question. What do we do then?
Then we turn to the power of the crowd.
Ooh, crowdsourcing.
Basically, there are all these online forums and communities dedicated to historical research, especially those focused on Cold War science and tech.
So basically you're saying our listener could tap into this network of other researchers who are passionate about this kind of stuff.
Exactly. They can share what they find, brainstorm new ideas. It's like having a whole team of detectives working on the case.
I love that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not even about being online. Sometimes a good old-fashioned conversation can lead to a breakthrough.
Oh, absolutely. Networking is key. You never know who might have that one crucial piece of information that unlocks the whole mystery.
It's true. Sometimes it's just about being in the right place at the right time, talking to the right person.
Right. But even if our listener doesn't find absolute proof that the Banzi Foundation existed, the skills they learn along the way will be super valuable.
It's all about the journey, right? The thrill of the hunt.
Exactly.
And maybe, just maybe, our listener will uncover something truly groundbreaking, something that changes how we understand a part of history.
That's always a possibility. And it's what makes historical research so exciting.
Okay, so to wrap things up, what's the one piece of advice we want to leave our listener with?
Don't give up. Be persistent. Think outside the box. And if you find something amazing, we want to hear about it.
Absolutely. So keep that curiosity burning. Remember, the truth is out there waiting to be discovered. And that's it for our deep dive into DARPA and the mystery of the Banzi Foundation.
Until next time.
Keep on exploring.